Okay, imagine this. You've got an experienced hiker way out in the wilderness who just vanishes. But here's the part that'll give you chills. He disappeared from a tent that was zipped shut from the inside. And the only thing he left behind was a camera with one single video file on it, a recording of his final, absolutely terrifying moments. This is the mystery of Mark Halloway.
So let's set the scene. We're going back to the fall of 2019, to a place called Blackwood Ridge in Oregon. Now, this isn't just any park. We're talking about a vast, remote, fog-soaked wilderness. It's the kind of place where getting lost is honestly the least of your worries.
You know, for most people, the woods are a place to escape, right? A sanctuary to get away from it all. But for Mark Halloway, that sanctuary, well, it became something else. The very solitude he was looking for was about to turn on him.
So, to really get what happened out there, we need to understand the man himself. Who was Mark Halloway, and what was he really doing so deep in the woods of Blackwood Ridge?
First off, Mark was the complete opposite of reckless. He was a 28-year-old software engineer, a guy who planned everything down to the last detail. He was an experienced camper. He'd done this solo thing plenty of times. His whole goal for this trip was simple: escape what he called the city noises and just find absolute quiet.
And get this, when a park ranger told him you're the only human being for 20 miles, you'd think that might be a little unsettling. But Mark's response? Perfect! That was exactly what he wanted. Which of course just makes what happened next so much more chilling.
For the first day and a half, everything went exactly to plan. It was totally normal. But on the second night, that silence Mark wanted so badly was shattered by a sound that would kick off a truly terrifying chain of events.
And we can actually piece this whole timeline together from his journal. The trip started out great, just fishing, reading, enjoying the solitude. But late on that second night, just before midnight, something changed. And then an hour later, things escalated fast.
Here it is, the first sign of trouble. In his own words, at 11:45 p.m., he writes about hearing a whistle. And you can see his logical brain trying to figure it out. Maybe it's birds? But he immediately knows that can't be right. Birds don't just repeat the same 3 notes over and over again. Something else was out there.
An hour later, the situation goes from just being strange to being genuinely threatening. The sound is getting closer. So Mark does what any of us would probably do. He shouts at it, tries to scare it off, but the response he gets, it's not an animal. It's intelligent. It whistles right back at him, only this time it's louder. He's not just hearing something anymore. He's in a conversation with it.
And this, right here, brings us to the single most disturbing piece of evidence he left behind, that final video file on his camera. This is the climax of his story, recorded just a couple of hours after that last journal entry.
At 2:13 in the morning, in the pitch black, Mark turns his camera on. But he's not filming the scenery anymore. No, he's documenting his own terror. So, what did he see? The footage is shaky, it's grainy, and you can hear Mark's terrified whisper. He says there's someone outside his tent, not an animal, a person. And their shadow has been standing there completely still for a full hour. I mean, the patience of it is just deeply unsettling. Then Mark turns the camera towards the wall of the tent, and there it is. Backlit by the camera's little light, you can clearly see the silhouette of a man pressed right up against the nylon, almost like it's listening to him breathing inside.
And then you hear it. The same sound from the journal, that 3-note whistle. But it's not distant anymore. It's right there, just outside the tent. It's low, it's almost teasing, and it's absolutely terrifying.
In the final moments of the video, it looks like Mark drops the camera. It's just pointing at the tent door, and the audio picks up the one sound you would never, ever want to hear in that situation. The slow, deliberate zip of the tent zipper starting to slide down. And just as that gap between Mark and whatever was outside begins to open, the screen just cuts to black. The battery dies. The recording stops, leaving us with that sound and the absolute horror of what might have happened next.
When a search party finally found his campsite 4 days later, the immediate horror of the video was replaced by an impossible, baffling puzzle. What they found just made no sense at all.
I mean, the scene was just a list of contradictions. The tent was zipped shut from the inside. How was that possible? His wallet and keys were still there. His heavy hiking boots, which you would absolutely need on that terrain, were sitting right by the entrance. And the search dogs, their scent trail just stopped. It vanished cold at the riverbank.
So this chart really lays out the paradox. To get out, you have to unzip the tent, but it was zipped from the inside. He would have needed boots to go anywhere, but he left them behind. And he should have left a trail, but it just disappeared into thin air. None of it adds up.
So all of this leads us to the big question, right? With a scene this impossible, where do you even start trying to explain what happened to Mark Halloway?
Well, there are basically three main theories. The rational, scientific one points to something called paradoxical undressing, a weird thing that can happen when someone has severe hypothermia. Another theory suggests a sudden psychotic break. But the people who live around there have their own explanation. A local legend about a creature called the Whistling Man, who is said to lure people off the trails.
In the end, we're left with no clear answers. Just a bunch of impossible facts. One horrifying video and a local legend that feels way too close to the truth for comfort. And it leaves us with this final, chilling piece of advice from the people who know those woods best.